Welcome back, everybody.
What's going on, peoples?
As always, this is Alamo, this is Mac, and we are the
Battle Bros Podcast. Welcome
Battle Bros.
back.
Welcome back, everybody.
What's going on, everybody? Hopefully you had a good week. Glad to see you back. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're coming back, also welcome. So let's get right to this, man. How you been, Alamo? You been doing good, bud?
Not bad. I fixed my water heater, so I'm feeling very manly. So yeah.
Hey, man, it's always good. It's always a good thing when you can go and maybe watch a couple of videos on YouTube and figure out how to do something. You're like, I am all that is man.
That's right, man.
I did the same thing with my fuel pump in my old car, and I felt like I was unconquerable.
Yeah. Yeah, you get those moments, man. You get those moments.
Absolutely. So, all right. So this week, if you caught our show the last couple of weeks, you've had some cool things going on. We were talking about. We did a show on survivor's guilt. We did a show on. What were the ones before that? Remind me, dude. I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. We did survivor's guilt. We did
survivor's guilt.
Angry Much.
Angry Much. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking too. Shoot. I might just have to look at our stuff to check it out.
It's all good. But we've talked about a multitude of things, so we're going to keep the party going. We are going to talk about something else. And this could not only be applicable to your military career, your military your military identity, but also to people in general. And that topic tonight that we have teased a little while ago on Facebook and the other social media is acceptance. Now, when we talk about acceptance, we're not necessarily meaning accepting of something that may have happened. You know,
right.
We had a tragedy and we're having to come to terms with that and overcoming the grief and this, that, and the other. We will save that. That is definitely something we could talk about on a future show. Mm-hmm. What we mean by acceptance is basically fitting in and belonging, okay? And I'm sure anybody can relate to this topic because it's kind of one of them universal things, you know. It's just kind of everybody can identify with it. So, you know, going off of the definition here, social acceptance affects people of all social and age groups. Social acceptance can be defined as tolerating the differences and diversity in others because most people attempt to look and act like others do in order to fit in. And I'm kind of reminded of a story that my dad told me one time. So my dad went to high school. And his older brother was, I think, 2 or 3 years ahead of him. So it might have been like with me and my younger brother, I was a senior, and then he was in your class. Obviously, you know that, Alamo, but so I was a senior, then you had boom, boom, then you guys are freshmen at the bottom. I think it was kind of the same deal with my dad. And my dad would, remember telling me a story where some guy walked up to him. He's like, you don't walk like your brother. You don't talk like your brother. You kind of, are you sure you're related kind of thing? And it kind of bugged him for a little bit because he's like, well, I want to look like my brother. I want to be cool like that. And, especially, I remember when I was a freshman in high school, dude, like you just felt like a freaking little fish in an ocean. And you're just like, this sucks. Somebody is going to eat me and use me as fish bait, like literally. So, but that also, that same kind of feeling can apply to the military. So we're going to talk about that tonight. So, as we talked about, it's basically just being accepting of others from the group and, understanding the diversity and so on and so forth. And why is that important? Well, it's important because it gives you a sense of belonging. I mean, it's never fun being, and there's so many movies and there's so many stories where you just see that one kid in high school and he's just kind of sitting off way by himself in the lunchroom, and all the other people's like, "Who's that guy? Oh, weirdo, loser." And it's first off, it's not cool. Like if you would hope and you would pray that people are teaching their kids acceptance and inclusion, because I mean, holy crap, it's 2021. Like, let's stop all the nonsense out there.
Yeah.
Being a turd and being a bully. Don't perpetuate that nonsensical crap. So
Yeah. Exactly.
and it's also important just to have that sense of belonging, and you'll kind of see where we're going with this when we start talking about this from the military perspective. So, no, I'm doing it. Hold on a second. Sorry.
All right, there, Marco.
My bad. Because I'm wearing a polo. Anyway, so we talked about, we did mention kind of like what that looks like pre-military. High school. High school is one of the most just rough places to try to fit in, because you've got all these microcosms and subcultures of high school society. You've got, all the guys that are jocks, whether they play, and then you got those broken down into different groups. You've got the guys that played football. You got the guys that played baseball. You got the guys that played basketball. If you're fortunate enough to have like track and field or hockey, you've got those too. I mean, at our high school, we had a bunch of that. We had we had football, we had baseball, we had basketball, we had volleyball, we had softball, we had wrestling, track and field, swimming. I mean, we had and still do have a pretty diverse sports program there. And that's just for the athletes. And then you have other things too. You have like all this different things you can fit into, academic wise. You have, the National Honor Society. You have, the math competition, Mu Alpha Theta. You have the different honor societies for the foreign languages. They had HOSA, which is Health Occupation Students of America. They had drama. They had, you name it. I mean, and it's really cool because I always told myself, if I was going to be a teacher, which I don't know that I have the patience for that anymore. And if you're a teacher, please understand, I am not knocking. You folks deserve every credit and provision and every bit of just pat on the back and a well done and all that stuff. Because let's face it, the last 2 years have seen just how lucrative and how insane that stuff can be. So if you're a teacher,
the last 2 years have seen just a slew of how much people can be divided. Like, I mean, we're looking at right now, we're looking at tribalism at its very best. Especially with, I mean, not to get like political or anything, but like, I mean, that's what you're seeing right now. Like, people want to fit into a group, people want to fit into a niche. And I mean, granted, people do that, but we see now that it's essentially not as effective in a society where people are meant to be individuals within the whole, if that makes sense, which is how our country was founded and built.
Right. And and that's a this is something that is another conversation. I don't even know if we'll do a show on it, but it's just a conversation. Yeah. It's like, as a society, we're so quick to label and organize and to categorize something. Like, that's not always necessary. You don't have to break that down. People don't have that much. There's a lot of people that don't have that kind of organization in their personal lives. Why do we need it in everyday lives, kind of thing? So anyway, I digress. But I know just the last thing I want to hit on the teachers is, like, I know a couple of folks that have just been like, a friend of mine from high school. She's a teacher.
Nicole said marching band geek.
Mike, are the comments up? Oh, we're called nerds. Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, but yeah, that was a whole nother microcosm there too. Is being being in the music department. You were whether you did chorus, whether you did orchestra, whether you did symphonic band, marching band, if you did all that stuff. Dancerettes or all, even cheerleaders. Like, it's all crazy, but. Real quick, what I was going to say is like, I know of two folks, a friend of mine who I went to high school with. She actually has been a teacher pretty much ever since she got out of high school, went to college, became a teacher, all that stuff. She has said that she's going to be taking a sabbatical just to figure out herself because of all of the stressors, internal to the school system, external of the school system. Like, I can only imagine what that looks like. And there's another person that that I know, where they're just like, I got to figure out what happened. I just lost my vigor and my zest for wanting to teach and, all this kind of stuff. So it's like, I get it. It's like, to the teacher folks out there, like, I feel you. I really do. Like, you know, have such an awesome responsibility out there, and you know, it's kind of walked on and stomped on and trampled upon. So it's like, just know that you're not alone. We feel for you, and you know, we love you. So there are people out there that appreciate you. So anyway,
Mhm.
so get back to high school. I mean, you have all these different ways you can fit in. Like, you know, one of the ways that Alamo and I fit in is, you know, ended up doing ROTC. That was like, I did that my senior year of high school, and like that was a good fit for me because it helped me get over some shortfalls that I had as a person, you know, getting up and wanting to talk in front of a class. Like, it was funny.
Yeah.
First Sergeant Spence made me do a class on how to speak in front of a class, and basically what I got good at was just skimming and scanning over notes and stuff. And he went out there and gave one of his, you know, nice oratorical speeches, and just was up, now what you got to do, see, and just all this kind of stuff for like 20 minutes. And I'm sitting there just furiously going over this stuff. And I got good at that and talking in front of a crowd. And, you know, I want to say that I would, you know, BS my way through something, but sometimes
Yeah.
just a little bit.
Well,
But, you know,
that brings up a good point too, though. Like, because I think about it, this like, because I think about myself, right? When I think about like just certain things, like, are there certain steps you took to like gain acceptance? Because I can think of a few off of the top of my head. Like, what do you have? Like,
I mean,
can you remember anything off the top of your head?
well, you got to understand, dude, when I went through, ROTC, like, for that aspect of things, you know, if we're still talking high school, for
Mm-hmm.
ROTC, you know, a lot of the guys that were in my class had been in the program all 4 years. So now it was kind of interesting because they were all in like senior leaders in the battalion. I mean, hell, Gary and Rocky both ended up becoming battalion commander for the first and second half of the
I
year,
remember that, yeah,
respectively.
because they were
Uh,
graduating the same year you graduated.
yeah, they all graduated with me. Alderman
Yeah.
did, Michelle. So all these people have been in a while, so they're like, you know, not necessarily company officers, but they're like battalion staff level officers. I mean, one of them was a PAO, all that kind of jazz. So here I was. I started out my senior year. I made, you know, I got promoted to squad leader pretty quickly, and then the second half of the year, I went from being a cadet sergeant to a cadet first lieutenant, and was made XO under Danner, for God's sakes. Yeah,
Yeah.
old Danner. Yeah. So, and like I just, you know, it was interesting too because like I ended up having to switch homerooms. I was in the same homeroom with some same group of
No.
people for
Teachers
three and a
are
half years.
superheroes, Nicole. So I just saw her comment.
Yeah, she's one of the good ones, man. I can tell you that for certain. But yeah, I was in the same homeroom with the same group of people for like 3 years, and then 3.5 years, and then when I made company XO, they
Yeah.
put me into the ROTC homeroom. So like
Mm-hmm.
that way we could have all like you have meetings and stuff in homeroom and whatnot. So I was like, that was cool and everything, but I was like, oh, I miss my friends. But you know, I fit
Yeah.
into that group pretty well. I mean, I ended up kind of, executive officer is not as glamorous as being the commanding officer, the CO, or the first sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
They get a lot more of the credit. The XO is kind of like the behind the scenes guy making things work. And there were
Yeah.
times where I had to step up. Like I had to, you know, with no practice or no previous experience at all, I had to do a whole, you know, company unit inspection and uniform inspection. And I was just like,
No.
you know, just trying to figure things out for that. For you know, like in high school when I was in marching band, it was a little bit easier because I was so involved in that program. I had kind of gone up and made my way up through that, and you know, has a couple of different positions of authority here and there. Yeah, um, freaking you know, and it just, you know, getting to, you know, the parents and all that kind of stuff and other people, you know. um, One of my best friend to this day, you know, we met in sixth grade, and then we kind of reconnected back in high school and just have became like the best friends, and we've known each other
Yeah.
for
I know
20
who's you talking about.
25 and 26 years. So yeah, she's coming back down here in a little bit, so it's like, yay. So what about you, man? What
Yeah.
do you talk about for acceptance in the high school
Um,
sense?
well, for me, like I remember, like for me, it was fairly easy. It was always get to know everybody around you. Like don't like I didn't want to be that guy that I didn't want to be that guy that was like kind of out of the loop. And I was always kind of a weirdo, but like for whatever reason, people just liked me. So I never really uh, what you call it.
Sorry.
I know, it was weird because like I think it was my open nature that really is what people actually kind of stuck to. I mean, obviously, I had those people that were kind of like, "Hey, brr, Alamo," brr. But
That's anywhere you go, though. I mean, if you think about
yeah,
it, I mean, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit when we talk about military
yeah.
stuff. But
But
yeah,
I always, it was always conversation for me because I'm a talker. I like to talk, and if some way, shape, or fashion, I'm not running my gums. I don't know. But it was get to know who the people are around you, so you know who to stick to and know how to kind of talk to.
let me ask you this question. We're going to deep dive into the psyche of Alamo here. How much of that would you say came from? So, in your senior year of school, you kind of started to transition from being an ROTC, and you kind of started kind of fade off of that and go into more of the drama club and like actually do that kind of stuff. How much of it do you think came from being in thespians and stuff?
um,
Because to be fair, I mean, that is something you were very, very, very passionate about. You have a gift for that. I mean, hell,
yeah,
for the folks that don't know, me and Alamo, like we sit here and twice a week we have a production meeting and we're just sitting here hamming it up half the time. It's like we don't get nothing done. And the fact we put on a podcast is just by the grace of God kind of thing. It's
yeah,
like, yeah. So that's the reason I asked that question. Because you've always been very passionate about doing that kind of stuff, entertaining,
yeah,
joking, making people laugh, engaging with people. Absolutely. So I'm
yeah.
just curious what you think about that.
Well, I mean, honestly, off the top of my head, I mean, I've done the Crucible when I was in high school. I've done a comedy while I was in high school, another drama, whatever. For me, it was, I don't know. I guess it was in high school. It was because I didn't really, even back then, I didn't really care too much if people liked or disliked me. But I did want to be the kind of guy that people looked at and were like, "Oh yeah, he's pretty cool, that Alamo." You know what I mean? But it was never like an ego thing. I was non-confrontational. You know what I mean? I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be that guy that people would just get mad at. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You know what I
And
mean?
it's funny you say that, being you wanted to be cool. Like I knew, when I was coming through high school, like I like outside the people in my circle of friends and like my class, like especially like the upperclassmen stuff, like I kind of knew I wasn't anybody that people would be like, "Oh yeah, Mac, that dude's hilarious." And they're like, "Who are you?" I'm like, other than the fact that I had a damn 5 head when I was in middle school, like, hey, football head. So the long story behind that, but I kind of, it wasn't the fact I was very, very, very shy when I was like, it took me joining the army to really come out of my shell. And my dad's like,
Yeah.
holy crap, they created a monster. Like, Jesus. Like, he saw the change immediately. Like, we were working together
Yeah.
one day and he was in the office washing his hands. And he stepped out of the office away from the sink and he goes, "Hey, I wasn't done." I'm like, and I just kind of looked at him very bluntly. I'm like, "You stepped away from the sink, you're done, right?" And he just goes, "Geez, I should have sent you to boot camp a long damn time ago." Just kind of like being the smart answer and stuff. And my boss, who at the time was he was prior service Marine,
Hmm.
um, he was just like, he kind of had that look of approval, like, which, whatever. He wasn't a bad dude. He just kind of had his ways, and that's all we need to say on that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
Setting the
mean,
ways.
one of the things I always appreciated, and kind of circling back to what I was going to say earlier, because I got lost in the mental weeds there. Like, pew. So
Hmm.
one of the things I always appreciated, and I wanted to, like, if I was to become a teacher, I would have really liked to have gone into high school because so many. I mean, if you think about the 4 years in high school that you have, so much of who you are and the person you start off in the adult world being is formulative from your high school career. I mean, just all the stuff you go through. I mean, just from social interactions to having the teachers. I mean, we've mentioned him once, we'll mention him again. Bruce Burnham was a
Mr.
history teacher.
B.
He was amazing. Like, he really wanted people to do well, and he was always rooting for like the underdog and rooting for you. And he's just like,
Yeah.
he would actually go and follow and track his students when they went to college to see that, okay, yeah, my students, when they go, they have a better, remember when we made you write the Cornell style notes where you like fold the page into like a third and 2/3 and you have a little part here. And he
Yeah,
would,
I remember
all
that.
that different stuff. He would actually go and track to see what your GPAs were when you went to school. And like, he just cared that much. And the fact that, he passed away last year it's a tragedy.
Sucks.
It sucks, but at the same time, like, no one's here forever. But at the same
Yeah.
time, he was one of those guys who just like, he
Yeah.
was one of the good ones for sure. So we love you, Mr. B. We miss you. But
Ooh.
but yeah, I mean,
something I forgot to ask you.
What's up?
Did were there any times that you kind of like really felt like ostracized? Like, from a group? Like, because I could tell you one time, but I want to hear what you got to say.
Dude, so again, not to like focus on the nerdy side of my high school career, but like anytime you were like, you talked about the marching band and the football players would come around, they just had this sense. And one of my really good friends for this whole time, my buddy Kevin, he knows what I'm talking about. Kevin was on the football. He started off in band. He was in the trombone section with me. That's right. I play trombone. Yeah. So you just save all the comments. And my co-host does it. Out fucking standing. Anyway, shithead, damn ass. So anyway, so like, and not that it was ever a bad thing, but I just noticed, like, when the football players around, we just kind of faded into the background a little bit because they just had more pull and more people wanted to, the boosters were much more involved and all that kind of stuff. Not saying that ours weren't, but they had, it a lot easier when it came to fundraising or this, that, and the other. So there's that. Just my personality probably was a lot of it too. Kind of it's always kind of fun working your way up to getting to a point, like, especially going from being like when I was just a squad leader in Company C, and then becoming the XO, and just the differences of that, just going and you're actually responsible for, like, my biggest priority in the first thing in the morning was everybody stands up, they do roll, and they, they do the report or whatnot, seeing who's here, who's not. I'm sitting there scribbling down, absentees and make sure all the numbers all match up. And it's like, it was kind of cool to have that little bit of responsibility. But what was your question again, dude? I was just freaking blank, man.
Like, was there a time where, like, when you felt ostracized? Like, when you felt ostracized?
Like, my first 2 years of high school, being an underclassman sucks because all the upperclassmen look at you like a little kid, and then unknowingly you do the same thing. You look at when you're an upperclassman, especially when you're a senior. And like, for me, I mean, it was you and my brother Jamie, and looking at all these people come in, like, they look like kids. Mind you, most people turn 18 while they're in high school. I did. I turned 18 once I got out of high school. I barely made it in kindergarten, so I was like one of the youngest guys in my class. So
don't worry, I graduated much later than that.
That's okay. It's all good, man. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I went into that again. Jeez. Anyway,
because I know
for high school, I wouldn't say so much in high school, but there's been other points in my life where I felt ostracized. So maybe once we hit on those points. What about you? What were you going to say?
Well, for me, like,
inquiring minds want to know.
There was, and it's funny. I don't even remember the girl's name. I don't remember what the hell the issue was. I don't even think she even told me what it was, aside from something stupid. Like, there was an entire section of seats with students in it that she basically turned on me. She was sitting on the same side of the room as me, But everybody else on this side was cool with me. Everybody else
Is this in a
from
class or is this at like
in
a
a
football
class.
game or
I
okay?
think it was geometry. Pretty sure it was geometry class. And I was sitting in this row. There was this row, and then this from my row down this way. Everybody else was cool with me. Pretty much everybody else on that side of the room was okay with me. I guess they didn't really have issues with me.
Was everyone in this class in the same grade? Like it was sophomore year or something?
I think so. No, I think it was junior year.
Okay. Okay.
I think it was junior year. Yeah, I think it
I
was
took
junior year.
See, I took geometry, I think my sophomore year, because
Yeah,
I did algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, and then I had analysis of functions,
yeah.
which I really didn't like that class because I and I'm gonna be honest, upfront and honest with everybody right now. I was not the best student in high school. Still not in some respects, but I could have done a lot better if I gave a shit. And I
Yep.
had senioritis my halfway through my freshman year. So
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah. So it's like raise your hand. It's just like
But but yeah, man. I mean, this girl like fucking looked at me like with it was always like with like a seething hate. Like I was just like, the fuck is wrong with this girl?
But you
Then
know what, too?
finally,
To
yeah,
interject real quick,
yeah, yeah.
like
Go ahead.
there's a lot of people that are not only figuring out the world, but they're figuring themselves out. So it's safe to
Yeah,
say there's some people there that probably are trying to figure out themselves, not only who they are, but who they are up here. So
yeah.
I mean,
And that was the thing. It's like because it caught me off guard because nothing ever came up from her until that day. But I know like pretty much her and everybody behind her were just like fucking hated me. And I remember she said,
were they all females?
yeah, I
Any
think so.
guys?
But she said something to me and she went and I was like, oh, I remember. Okay. She said, "Could you please shut up?" Because I had like other people. It was between like tests and shit, so nobody was really giving a shit. And she says, "Could you please shut up?" And I was like, "The fuck? I'm not talking to you. Like, what's the problem?" And she's like, "I just
Yeah.
don't like you." And I was like,
Okay, so I'm gonna say this, and I'm sorry. I'm gonna tell it like it is. Like
hmm,
certain people in high school, women like chicks in high school are catty. They have
"Oh
there
yeah,
is the tendency is there. Okay, and I'm not saying anybody else in thinking guys can be stupid and guys can be really dumb,
mhm.
but women can be catty and all that kind of crap. So let's just call
Oh
it what it
yeah,
is. You're in high school. You're young. You're coming up in the world. You don't fucking know nothing, and you're stupid. So
yeah,
moving on. So
you are,
I would say, for high school, there was a lot of that, like just learning where you were. But see, here goes the thing. So you have this. I'm going to use the example of the football player. You go to somewhere, you come from somewhere like Armwood. Let's say you just won a state championship, and then you go to college,
ah,
and you're now a college rookie. You're a freshman player on a
mhm.
college team, and guess what? You ain't nobody. You ain't the flea on that rump of a cow. It don't matter. You're starting off from scratch all over again. And for me, not having gone to college, instead I went to the military. So we're going to caveat, kind of buttress that up into the next point is, you go to high school or I'm
Yeah,
sorry, we just said that you go to basic training. And then from there, as soon as you get there, your drill sergeants hate you. They may not say it, but they
oh
act
yeah,
like I remember getting off that van coming from the MEP station on Waters Avenue all the way up to Fort Benning. And the guy's like, "If you know it's good for you, you're gonna get off my van right now." And I was like, "Fuck, what did I do?" Just kind of one of those moments. And then everything there is like, and I thought it was funny because they had a bunch of like privates there. There was like a couple of guys that were E2s and
the
E3s.
privets.
Yeah, but they were like on the company staff, pretty much.
Yeah,
And they're sitting there bossing us around like drill sergeants and stuff. And I'm like, you guys are the same rank as us. Like, what makes you so special? And it's just they've been
we
put in that position of
graduated. That's what.
pretty much that's all it was. And they were holdovers or whatnot. So they got stuck in, in that position. They were just an errand person, an errand boy, errand person, whatever, or a runner, like go for this, go for that. And they're just, working for the drill sergeant stuff. And it's like, that's gotta suck a little bit at times. But, and then from there you go through and you kind of start to earn your way up the ladder a little bit. You're not so stupid anymore. You're somewhat knowledgeable. You know how to act, and you know the customs and courtesies and the protocols and the different things, all that kind of stuff. So you get out of, you graduate basic. Okay, so guess what? You're now part of the Army. Fantastic. But wait, there's more. Now you have to go to AIT. I mean, obviously for us, we went to one station unit training. So you still did 14 weeks. So even though you're an 11 Charlie, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it was no different. I mean, we all wear the blue cord, man. We just would all do our separate training.
I get that, but you just had, I'm sure you probably just went and did other things out in the field for the mortar qualifications, all that kind of stuff. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's, really about it. When it came down to it, we qualified on the 81s, we qualified on the 60s, and then that was it. And then I found out I was going to a mortar platoon, not a mortar section. And I got to play with 120s. And then I was like, ooh. Yeah.
Ooh. Excellent.
Yeah, especially when you got like a fireball like this big coming out of the top of the freaking cannon, of which I had many pictures, and I got to figure out where those suckers are. But awesome.
So, when we talk, I tell you, I would love to go back and go through basic again now that it's 22 weeks, just to see what all they're doing, man. That would be cool. Like you see those guys that go back through it, like they're like, hell yeah. Because you know how to play the game now. It would be a little bit harder though, because the Army is such a different creature than it was when we were in.
Yeah, it
would still be cool. Way different. I would love to get all that different, marksmanship training and stuff, and learn about all the different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, coming out with those pinks and greens, I'm a fan of those uniforms. They're fantastic. They look so belt. They're just so awesome. Anyway, so even though you're out of basic training, you go to AIT. Guess what? You're at the bottom of the bottom rung again. So now you're a soldier. So you're slightly, you're not as, worthless or useless as, somebody. And I say that in a joking manner. I'm not saying it to be harsh or cruel. Yeah. But you're, like my buddy, our friend Jose, he said they used to have a thing on the subs where they call new guys, they call them nubs, which is new underway buddy. So they're like, yeah, I'm a new underway buddy. And it's like, that really stands for non-useful body, because this person ain't even submarine qualified yet. You got to test on that kind of stuff to get certified in that rating and that kind of stuff. And you're just
20 degrees down, bubble.
So, yeah, noob. Anyway, so yeah, so you go to AIT, and now you're starting off at the bottom of the rung there. So you work your way up, and finally you get to AIT. Hey, cool. Now you're a soldier. You've gone through basic, and now you're MOSQ, your military occupational specialty qualified. You're trained in your job. So now you go to our first unit, and guess what? Right back down at the bottom.
Yard.
Because now you're the fucking new guy. So I can tell you from my experiences, it was interesting getting in my unit, because there wasn't really a whole lot of that going on. Because when I joined my unit, I graduated basic in 12 September of 03. So at that point, my whole battalion had been mobilized and left and was already over in Iraq, Jordan, all that kind of stuff. They were the first conventional troops on the ground breaking the berm from Jordan into Iraq with like 5th Special Forces, OGA, CIA, British SAS, Alphabet Soup.
Now, quick question about that. Like, when they went over there, like how long were their deployments? Was it like 9 months, 8 months, or something like that then?
So because of the fact that this is when everything first kicked off in Iraq, this was 03. They ended up being over there for about 18 months. And so, and here's
they got 3 months on me.
Yeah. So here's kind of part of the reason why was, and we'll hit on this again in a little bit later in this episode, But you talk about the differences between active duty and reserve / National Guards. We're just going to put reserve components all together,
Yep.
inclusive.
Reserve components is.
You have all these folks that not only have a military job, but they have a civilian trade. You have guys that were carpenters and electricians and plumbers. And especially with the unit that I was in, a lot of those guys, they found out that, like, hey, you got electricians, you got, you got plumbers, you got people that can actually like put up our internet and satellite dish and stuff. Hey, can you get tasked out to us for a month? Like, we need to set up some stuff on our base. So like Charlie Company came home, I think, with like 5 different combat patches. They came home with our unit, which is 53rd Brigade. And then they came home with 4 other ones, including 5th Group, including 24th, and like some other units and whatnot. But like they got tasked out quite a bit because they had guys that could do other stuff. It wasn't just a bunch of grunts that were active duty. They actually had some practical knowledge about, putting up buildings and electrical work and plumbing and carpentry and all that kind of crap. So
all the good shit.
All the good stuff. So, when I was, so when I joined, those guys were already gone, but we had a lot of new guys coming in as well. So there was just, like the first 5 or 6 months that I was at drill, all we did was go out in the field and we would practice battle drill 1 alpha, which was squad attack. And that's all we did. Because we were technically just the rear component. Everybody that had graduated from basic that was coming to our unit or our battalion went into Delta Company, and then we all just kind of went there and all that kind of stuff. Once everybody got back, though, it kind of changed a little bit because I would say we had a little bit more of that traditional, stereotypical new guy experience, but not quite so bad because the guys came back. They were coming back from Iraq, and you could tell they were still in their 3-color DCUs and stuff. And, they had come back, and unfortunately, those guys had gone over there for 18 months, came back, and then they got called up for hurricane duty with the National Guard. And it's just like, I feel for you guys. That kind of sucks a little bit. But at the same time, it was the platoon that I was in was the one platoon out of the company that didn't go overseas. The other 2 platoons went over to Iraq and did all that kind of stuff. And then our platoon, was just everybody that was like left over and had gone and done that kind of stuff. We were all the guys that had been home the whole time and stuff. So, and I don't remember a whole lot about it, but at the same time, like the guys that we had talked to, they were pretty cool. Like, they didn't come off as being like, like looking down their nose at you and just that kind of stuff. They were pretty cool, legit. Were willing to talk to you. I mean, one of my best friends I made from those guys that came back, my buddy Brian. So, we that's how we got to know each other. I was just a freaking young, wet behind the ears PFC when he met me the first time. So it's like,
yeah.
What about you, man? So what about when you left Fort Benning and went to Fort Lewis, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, when I think I've mentioned it before, when I left my unit, when I left basic, to go to my unit, it was kind of back in that transition period when they were leaving from Mosul to come back to the stateside.
This is 2nd Striker Brigade.
2nd Striker Brigade at the time, 1st to 24th Infantry, Deuce Foe.
And that's when you wore 2nd ID patch, right? You
wore the strawberry patch. Strawberry patch.
So 25th, not 2nd ID. I thought at one point you were wearing 2nd ID.
No, it was Deuce 4. It was 1st to 24th.
Okay, so it was still you were never with 2nd Infantry Division.
No.
Okay, I got that confused.
They were in a complete. They were on the same base, but they were on a completely different side of the base.
Okay.
We had one side, they had the other.
So you were only ever with 25th ID and then 3-2 Striker Cav.
Game vote.
2nd Cavalry Regiment out of Vilsic.
Yeah, first Battalion, 24th. That's what we were. And then
so they were coming back from Mosul, and then you were
right
up to Fort Lewis.
Yeah, and then we were on. Yeah, I was. And when I got to Fort Lewis, there were still guys that were transitioning back. Like there were still guys still coming back from overseas to what you call it. Because at the time,
Demobilizing.
Huh?
There were guys that were still demobilizing.
Right, exactly. Like
Okay.
we had all the back units coming out back and all that good stuff, and kind of like the last tail end of the division, just coming back, with all the equipment and all that good stuff because we had to get all our equipment. Yeah, we had to get all of our equipment out of there and everything.
That was a division deployment. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of the guys had come back. A lot of the guys, had gone on holiday vacation as well.
Leave, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And we, when I got there, I hadn't really met all of the squad leaders, but for the most part, most of the guys I'd met there when I'd gotten there were all kind of well, let's just be frank. They kind of treated us like shit because it was like, oh yeah, dumb private.
Were you in the fuck game Olympics?
I luckily, because I somehow, again, this is where I get to know, the whole conversation deal of where I get to know people. I surprisingly did not get many of them played with me. Now there were times where I would get kind of what you call it, and it was like, oh yeah, by the way, here, hold this private. I was like, yes, Sergeant. It is a 249 saw. Good. Guess what? You volunteered to clean it. Fuck.
I can't stand that shit.
like, god damn it. Like, really?
Fuck games are the worst.
Yeah, and so that's the kind of stupid shit. Like, and again, like I said, because like most of the guys were gone and whatever on block leave and all this good stuff, it was kind of one of those things where there was really nothing for a lot of us to do during the time frame.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I didn't really see most of my platoon staff or anything like that. I didn't see most of them until like around like early January. Because during the holidays, I mean, pretty much everybody was still gone. I was, and then I ended up having saved up by the end of that year. Like I saved I think it was 4 days specifically so I could come back home and see the family for Christmas or whatever. And then I just went about my business. Right. But it was interesting, man. It was when I got to first meet my platoon sergeant, which wasn't at the time Sergeant First Class Hodges, who ended up retiring as a first sergeant. But
could you tell that first time he met you? Like, I'm sure you might have been. Were you standing in his office or something?
Oh yeah, and it was funny too.
He's probably got your 201 file looking over it. You can just kind of feel he's probably imagine he's just sitting there, kind of just like giving you the whole sizing you up and like, okay, is he going to be squared away? Is he going to be a shitbag? Like, what's going on here?
And that was, again, that's where like I just let people do the talking. Like I have a really good gut about people. I'm not going to say that it's 100% foolproof accurate like all the time.
No. But dude, you spend enough time talking to people. Like, I mean, hell, just with me and you working together in a retail environment, you spend enough time talking to people, like you're going to get an idea for what makes these people tick and all that kind of stuff. And well, that's another story, but
yeah. And that was the thing. Sure. So for the most part, I didn't really get a lot of the fuck games played on me because specifically for that reason, because I found a way to, I'm not going to say I worked what you call it, but I will say that I let at a certain point, which we'll get into that later, but I let my kind of jokiness kind of get in the way of things at certain times, which kind of hurt me in the end, towards the end of my time with that first unit. But like I said, we'll get into that later. But other than that, like getting to know the guys and stuff like that, like, because I mean, most of the guys I went to basic with went to the same unit I went to because, you know, we were a quick, we were a QRF, we were a rapid deployable unit. Um, and when they transitioned us to 3-2 Cav, it remained exactly the same. First, the 24th Infantry was a rapid deployable unit. 3-2 Cav was a rapid deployable unit, but they needed it that way because they needed units that could go over there and kick some ass in a pretty quick fashion. And there's no vehicles that have better mobility, better freaking what you call it, than the Strikers, man. And I stand by that to this day.
I feel like you drank the Striker Kool-Aid, my man. He's like, by the gallon.
Telling you, man, them Strikers are the business. But yeah, man, really, like it was interesting getting to know a lot of the guys because I'm such a conversationalist, you know, and also kind of goofy. I learned which guys are sensitive. I learned which guys really don't give a shit. Um, and I kind of, I'm not going to lie. My confidence level being boosted after I joined the military and getting all that stuff, because obviously everybody gets kind of like, huh, I am the shit.
Chest sticks out a little bit farther, and you're just like, go ahead.
Yeah. Your chest sticks out just a little bit more. You're
take it.
Yeah. But for whatever reason, I always stuck to the more outgoing guys because I was outgoing at the time. And the more shy guys, I related to in the fact that, hey, I'm a shy guy too sometimes. Maybe. But yeah, man, really, yeah.
So let me kind of interject and add something to that. So, going back to the whole basic training thing, it was interesting because of the 4 platoons in my basic training company, it was Delta 254. My platoon, which was 3rd platoon, had most of the guys that were going on to airborne and then on to Ranger as well. And I always thought it was funny because there was quite a few of us that were National Guard. My buddy Evandro, my buddy Danny, my friend Paul. These are all guys that I ended up going overseas with when my unit deployed. And we were all National Guardsmen, and these active duty guys like, yeah, you National Guard guys need to get good at filling up these fucking sandbags. I'm just like, that's kind of a really shitty attitude to have, but there's a reason kind of why they put people through that, is to kind of get that cockiness, to the tough, exterior, the mental fortitude, so you can get shit done when you need to get it done. And I get that, but at the same time, like, you don't got to be a cockbag either. Like, seriously, like, stop wearing your ass hat.
Stop being a cunt.
And it's funny. Okay, yeah, we'll use that word. Absolutely. Yep, we'll be here, pal. Freaking. Sorry, I'm sorry. Let me.
Sure.
And
Custer was a pussy. You ain't.
God damn, Sergeant Major. That's a great scene. I'm so glad you quoted that, because that's so makes sense.
Sergeant Major Plumley, man, best freaking. I mean, I don't know if he played him to life, but like, I mean, the best character.
I've heard it's pretty close, but anyway, so with all that, it's like you get that sense of just the stupidity, because you have to have that male testosterone part of it too.
Yeah.
And it's like, I forgot the other part that was going to be. Damn it. Oh, so you talked about when all those guys came home and all that kind of stuff. Your unit stayed the same, going from Deuce 4 over to 3-2. So when I went over, it was our battalion. So the whole brigade pretty much deployed. A lot of the officers and senior NCOs, like E7s and up, the mission was to mentor the Afghan army.
Okay.
For my unit, we were in the security forces, or Sec 4 battalion, and we were just responsible for the physical base security at the different installations around the country. So Camp Phoenix, where I was at up in the north, it was Camp Tillman until they changed it to Camp Span because there were like 4 Camp Tillmans and our mail kept getting messed up. Just all the different places all around the country and stuff. We were responsible for the internal and external security of the base and whatnot.
We stayed on one camp that was called Camp Striker.
What am I going to do with you, man? Seriously? What am I going to do with you? Put your lung back in there, put your lung back down your throat there.
Oh, man.
But what was interesting, though, is like I formed a pretty tight bond with a lot of these guys. So when I came back home in 2006, the company that I was with, Charlie Company, was in Orlando. And they were also co-located with the battalion headquarters armory, which is over there off of Fern Creek Ave and stuff. So it was eventually decided that Charlie was going to move up to Ocala, which is like a good 100 miles away as opposed to like 70. Cool thing is that I believe they're co-located with a special forces company in an armory up there in the eastern part of Ocala. It's actually not far from my uncle's house. So, that would have been cool and everything. But at the same time, like at this point, I had gotten really close. And a lot of the guys that I served with were over in Bravo Company, which is over in Sanford. So even though I'm still driving 100 miles of drill, I was like, I'll stay with these guys because I served with them and they're all good dudes and whatnot. So Now, what was interesting about that, though, is I think the time that I was there, so think about how many Joes are in a traditional infantry company. You've got maybe 3 platoons, a headquarters section, 4 squads per platoon. So you're talking 36 to 40 guys per platoon. So about 135, 140.
Gotcha.
The time that I was there, what was interesting was there's 2 things happening. So like they were talking to guys about, getting their information and seeing who they could get promoted and all that kind of stuff. And, I didn't get, this is a good example of, you asked earlier about being ostracized. I didn't go to Iraq. I went to Afghanistan. So all these guys that have gone to Iraq, like, oh, so did you go to Iraq with us? I'm like, no, Sergeant. I went to Afghanistan with the Phoenix 4 mission. Oh, you didn't go to Iraq at all? You weren't with so-and-so? Never been, Sergeant. Didn't go at all? No, Sergeant. That's a negative. I was in Afghanistan. Okay, yeah, we'll look over your stuff. That's cool. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. Next. Hey, did you go to Afghanistan? Did you go to Iraq? Yeah. All right, cool, man. We're going to help you get promoted. And it's just like, aha. Okay. I see what's going on here. Yeah. Some bamboozlery going on here. But not only that, what was also interesting too was a third of the guys in my company were prior service Marines. So you had a heavy influence that my company commander, Captain Delaport, was a prior service Marine. My platoon sergeant was in the Marine Corps. He was in a state platoon, surveillance and target acquisition, RISTA or whatnot. What do they call it?
Mm-hmm.
No, surveillance and target acquisition. So it's like scout sniper type shit.
Gotcha.
My squad leader was at one point. One of my good buddies, Darvin, he had just come and switched over from active duty Marine Corps to the National Guard, all that kind of stuff. So it was interesting there. But on that case, it wasn't so much being ostracized. It was just a different set of like influence and culture, and a lot of like implied things like, coming up, a Marine thing to say, like when you're coming up behind somebody, an officer, you're not going to like run ahead of them and then turn around and then, slap a salute and stuff. You're just, you'll say, by your leave, sir, which is just kind of customs and courtesies in the Marine Corps from what I've been told several times over. But you definitely kind of felt ostracized, when that sergeant was like, oh, did you go to Iraq? Nope. Oh, okay. But to be fair though, those guys were all pretty tight. I'm not mad at that at all. Like, I understand. It's just the way that this one person went about it. I was just like, God, you're kind of a douche.
Yeah. But then again, I kind of see what you're saying there, because like I kind of felt that same way too when my platoon sergeant, at the time, kind of there was, and again, the whole thing of responsibility, everything's your fault. So And you know, there's a lot of truth to that.
That's a true fucking story right there, pal.
But you know, I was, you know, there weren't a lot of times where he caught me when I was being serious, um, which again, like I said, it's my fault. There weren't a lot of times where he caught me being serious, so there wasn't at a certain point when he was trusting me with certain things. When he saw me, whenever it was that he would catch me, he would find me doing something kind of off the wall or being kind of stupid. I guess his trust of me started to go, and you know, where I was at, where, you know, I was doing really well in the platoon. I was getting, you know, pretty good. You know, I even lost out on promotion because he thought I wasn't, you know,
Yeah. Mature enough.
You know, other guys that, you know, either weren't good at PT or anything else, they got their specialist before I did, before we even deployed. And I was like, the fuck? Like,
So
how the hell did that guy?
that brings up a good point. Does it bug you when you see guys younger than you or have had less time in the army get promoted over you? Because that ended up happening to me. If I had a guy come in,
It did because those guys that I'm talking about did have less time in service than I did. They graduated basic, like I think, like a full 2 months after. Like they got to the unit like in January, whereas I had gotten to the unit back in like fucking
November,
early December. Yeah, I'd gotten to the unit like early December, or was it? Actually, it was right after Thanksgiving. So late November. I had gotten to the unit in late November. Those guys didn't graduate until like I think like 4 weeks later. They ended up getting to the unit like fucking like in early January, like right after the holiday.
Yeah.
And not for nothing, but like a couple of those guys, they, like I said, they all ended up getting promoted before I did. And I was like, I mean, I know, like, specifically there was a time where I screwed up, and can't lie, we
being young and stupid. That happens.
yes and no. Like, I, you know how you have the headsets inside while you're inside the vehicle that have the Kevlar liner and all that stuff, and the connectors that go into it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't. There was nothing to kind of tie anything off to it for my uniform, and I didn't think about maybe taking it and then like kind of tightening it so that it didn't, so that it
making a
stayed,
knot. So, yeah.
so that it stayed.
So
Well,
it's literally just end to end, and it just kind of came undone.
right. We were doing a training exercise, and I was the guy in the TC hatch while the driver was down there. The guys were dismounted, and they went into a house and cleared it and whatever, and blah 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 blah. And again, like I said, the trust had already been waning at that point. Well, this is when he really lost. When he really lost, I guess, faith in me. I, told, the driver, I think it was Chua, to back up. I told him to back up the vehicle to try and, get us, to a slightly closer position so that the guys can, when they're ready, mount up, and then freaking we could demount. Well, as I turned, I didn't realize that the mic had popped loose. And by the time I'd realized it, we were getting really close to the essentially what we built up as a small shoot house. And I was like, oh shit. And I was like, because I said Chua, 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 oh fuck. Then I had to get down, I was like, Chua. And he wasn't hearing me because he's right there next to the engine, obviously, because driver's engine's literally right next to them. And as I'm sitting there trying to fuck with the damn thing, all of a sudden I just hear because it's made of fucking particle board and plywood. Luckily, the guys had already exited that fucking building, but Chua ran the whole damn thing over.
Oops.
Yeah.
But you know what, man?
And
it happens. Shit happens.
yeah, from that point forward, all faith was gone. And even the explanation I gave him, where I was like, yeah, but Sergeant, my mic had come loose. I didn't get it. He was, well, why didn't you drop down and say something? I was like, I I did, but before we even hit the building, before we had a chance to even stop, like Chua already had been hitting the building. Like,
Yeah.
it is what it is. Things happen. Things
Yeah.
happen for a reason. So it is what it is.
So kind of going along with that, we were talking about, going to your unit and all that kind of stuff, playing the game. So once, like I talked about going to a different unit because I want to stay with the guys that I had served with. Now, while I was overseas, we kind of had about, I want to say 8 or 9 months through, we had, I forget what it was called. I think my LT called it the 7th inning stretch or something like that, where we kind of took a couple of guys and kind of reorganized the platoon a little bit, leadership wise. We put some different guys in charge of different stuff, and I got moved from my spot as a machine gunner in the weapons squad, and I got moved over to a regular line squad. So I was coming in, even though like this squad was in, we had 4 squads in our platoon. And we weapon squad and third squad shared a super B hut together. So these guys were literally like right down the hall kind of thing. Even though we knew these guys, it was weird because I'm coming in as a new guy, even though we'd been overseas at the same time. And they had their own little ways of doing things and this, that, and the other. And I was just like, it was kind of weird because like here I am, I'm coming into this group and all these other guys just look at me like, oh, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
So it was, I can definitely understand, like when especially if you have to like switch units and stuff, even like different squads inside of a platoon or a different platoon in a company. I mean, you just got that whole kind of that group identity that you have to reacquire and just change to because of, switching all that kind of stuff. So I
Yeah.
totally get it,
I think I switched squads like maybe twice. I don't think it was more than that. I think I went from, and obviously because we're a mortar team, I think I went from 2 gun to 3 gun to 1 gun, which essentially is, obviously first squad, second squad, third squad.
Okay, so like the different gun teams for the mortar tube.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I kind of just switched around. Because I think I was originally in 2 gun, which is second squad, and then I went from 2 gun to 3, and then somewhere along the line in Iraq, I went from, I'm pretty sure it was 3 gun to 1 gun, which was first squad, which was dismount. And that's when I was actually able to like get around and like do some fucking dismount work.
Yeah, it was different because I mean, for me, it was weird. I was a machine gun team leader. I was the 240 gunner. I had an assistant gunner and I had an ammo bearer.
Yeah.
And we should have had a 4th member for anti-armor, but we just didn't have the staffing for that. Yeah. So, and the weird thing is even though I was a machine gunner, I really only just walked around and carried an M9 because my 240 a lot of times was just on outside the wire because it was on one of the gun trucks and different squads would use. So it just kind of get swallowed up as platoon equipment. But when I changed,
so you didn't have M4?
I mean, a lot of times. Okay, my personal. I had 2 weapons that I had hand receipts for, a 240 Bravo and an M9. When we were out of the wire, a lot of times we would have one of our guys who was either probably usually the driver, would pass up his M4 up to me, and it would be up in the hatch somewhere. So, like, if things got serious and the gun went down, I could still, start laying hate if I had to. But
yeah,
most times, I mean, I carried on me an M9. That's it. So when I was walking around base and stuff, but that changed when I went to the new squad. I ended up having an M4. So that was kind of, a different change of pace, which wasn't bad. but it was still different, you know. But so the last, not to kind of push along here, but we're already over the
No,
hour
you're
mark,
good.
but so the last thing, and this is something you can really push on, and talking about gaining acceptance, is the eternal conflict and battle of nonsensical wits between active duty and reserve components. So, and I can tell you, like, I've told this story once before. It's like I had this guy, I was used to drive for Uber. This guy got in my car, brand new, fresh out of basic. He's going to go up to Fort Drum to be with 10th Mountain.
Yar.
And like at the time, Uber had a thing where you could put like you're a veteran on like your driver profile. So it just, at least if anything, it's like a conversation starter or some stuff. And this guy's like, "Oh yeah, man, you're in the Army, huh?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "I was an infantry unit, you know." He goes, "Who'd you serve with?" I was like, "Oh, I was an infantry unit here in the National Guard. I went over to Afghanistan." Oh, he just stops and goes, "Oh, that's not the real Army." And I'm driving. I literally turned around. And I was just like, "Excuse me?" And his buddy is in the front seat. He's in the back seat over on the passenger side. And he's like, "Dude, don't start." I'm like, No. I said, "Your friend's entitled to an opinion, no matter how wrong and asinine it is." I said, "I'd love to hear this." And the guy goes, "Well, you're a weekend warrior. You're a nasty girl." I'm like, "Okay." And he goes, "Well, you don't have to go to just the Army. You have all this other, you have all this other stuff you got to do. You go to the field 1 weekend a month." I'm like, "And?" He goes, "Well, that's it." I'm like, "Okay, so if that's all you got, your argument's bunk." I said, "First off, you have it easy because you have one job, and that's trained to be a soldier. Whereas I and other people in my job profession and in my situation not only have a military obligation, they have a civilian job. They might even have to go to school and be a student. Oh, and guess what? They might even have a fucking family. Wow. Wife, kids, husbands, all that kind of stuff. You know, you never know." And like his whole argument was just based on the fact of like this arrogance of active duty. If you serve, man. Like, let's just get past this crap about, oh, who's got the bigger dick, you know, active duty versus National Guard versus this, you know, who cares? Honestly, at this point, who gives a flying fuck? It's not important. You're doing your part, you're serving your country. That's important. Okay. But the guy's sitting here and I'm just like, and this is back when I was not quite so level-headed. I was a little bit quicker to say some heated stuff. I was like, "Dude, I've got more time in an Army shitter than you've got in the Army, so shut up." And all this stuff. So as he goes to get out, I drop him off where they're going, and he gets out of my car and he's trying to like backpedal. And I was like, "I wasn't trying to start fire." I'm just like, don't care. So his friend's like, "Listen, I'm sorry." I'm like, "Dude, he just needed to have his ass broken a little bit. Like, he's young and he's cocky, and that's fine. But one of these days, you just got to stay humble." That is the biggest lesson I've learned in my adult life is being humble on so many levels, and that's important. So,
oh yeah, no, being humble is incredibly important, and I had to learn that one the hard way.
So, what was that like when you transitioned to you went from active duty to transition to a reserve unit?
Well, first things first, I didn't go to the reserves immediately. I actually had kind of like I think it was like a 4. I'm trying to think, because I got back that February. I probably had like maybe a 6 or 7 month stint where I just got so fucking bored with life. I said, "You know what? I can't do this. I got to do something." So I said, "You know what? I'm going to rejoin the military. I'm going to go reserves." And I said, "You know, maybe I'll just try and do a different job." Which, funny story, when I got to that unit, like nobody was there. So my first drill was literally me helping squad leaders and whatnot, like just sort out like all the stuff, because that unit, go figure, had literally just gotten back, probably, I think what was it?
I don't know. You got to tell me.
They had just gotten back, probably, huh?
You got to tell me. I don't know. Sorry.
Oh, I'm having a brain fart. Yeah, no, you're good. No, they had probably just gotten back, like probably probably 6 or 7 months before. So there really wasn't a lot going on at the unit. So that was a new experience trying to figure, like, my first drill was literally, oh yeah, did you get uniforms? No. All right, go see Sergeant so and so. He'll get you uniforms. Okay. So I went and got my uniforms, got everything that I needed, came back. Hey, you got uniforms? Yes, Sergeant. All right, go put them on.
Field gear. You got field gear.
Yeah.
Get your 50.
Yeah. So literally day one, it was all just getting all my shit, getting all of my fucking gear, my fucking rucksack, all that shit, fucking getting it together. And then I had to put it in the car, throw on a uniform, and then fucking the next day, it was oh yeah, you get issue a weapon yet? No, Sergeant. Hey, come get come to armory, get a M4 M9. Okay.
So I never asked you this, and I was curious. So you had about a 6-7 month break in service from going active duty until you
Yes.
rejoined into the reserves.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to go MP, or was it just something that was open where you're like, yeah, I'll try it? Or what was the kind of the fruition? What was the train of thought?
It was a little bit of both. It was a little bit of, you know what, I want to try something different. I want to see what it's like, you know, on this side, and maybe having a little bit of fucking MP experience will help me, you know, do something different in the civilian world. I don't know. You know, that's kind of how I was treating it. And that's what I did. I just went for it. It didn't go nowhere because, you know, fucking training sergeant was a fucking ass. But you know,
I feel like there's a little bit of pent up angst there.
But you know, once once the unit really started getting back and running into gear or whatever, and we started getting into training exercises and doing a whole bunch of training and things like that, like that, it was funny. Like the the leadership there really started to treat me a lot. I feel like they treated me, they respected me a little bit more, even with my goofiness.
Like you were an asset to all these younger guys.
Like I would, exactly, especially once they saw that we had a bunch, like, because there was a lot of green. I would say probably 65-ish% of the unit strength was all fucking green. Like everybody like was either just fresh out of basic or, you know, whatever. And a lot of them were looking to me, like a lot of the leadership were looking at me like, oh yeah, Alamo, you deployed, right? Where'd you go? Well, Sergeant, I went to Iraq, deployed with, you know, 3-2 Cav, you know, did a combat tour there, came back and da 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 da. Oh, so you got CIB? I was like, yeah, yes, I got CIB, Sergeant. Yes. They're like, oh, outstanding, good. You could train the, you know, you could train Joe on, you know, all this other stuff. And I was like, okay. So there was a lot of times where I was actually assisting in training and things like that, like, you know, doing I'm up, he sees me, I'm down type stuff, doing fucking house clearing,
basic stuff.
Yeah, just, you know, training them up, and especially training them up on firearms. Like I actually helped out. Like,
gotta train them up. They're real green.
Real green. Gotta train them up. You think about getting you one of those M16s? Lots of plastic. Feels like a BB gun to me. So anyway,
think I'll stick to my pistol. If I need an M16, there'll be plenty of them laying around.
Oh shit!
So good. It's so quotable. It's amazing. Yeah. It's so quotable.
But you know, and you know, I was out there on the range too. Like when you know, when we'd be on the firing range and shit, like I'd help people zero in their rifles. Fucking, I helped fucking a couple. And I found out I had a knack for teaching then, which surprised me. I didn't know I could actually teach a motherfucker, but I found out because of the Army Reserve that I could teach people.
And
which was fun.
That's not something everybody can do, you know.
Yeah.
I find a big issue with that expression. Those who can't teach, no. You need to have somebody that knows what they're talking about and is passionate about it. Like getting into the training side of firearm stuff in the past few years has been just a wonderful experience, and I absolutely love to do it.
Yeah. And it was awesome too, because like, you know, I helped a bunch of freaking people fucking learning their stance and teaching them why certain stances were, you know, correct and why they needed to be the way they were. And they, needless to say, I trained quite a few soldiers while I was there because I had the combat experience. You know what I mean? Even though I personally believe my combat experience was worth dick, but you know, it is what it is.
I got you.
But you know, it was a good feeling going from a platoon where, you know, I was looked at as a hindrance to going to a place where I was actually seen more of an asset.
Yeah. I think for me, you know, it wasn't so much that I was moved into a position. It was one of the coolest memories I have. And it was just, and it's not even anything special. It was the fact that like, my last squad leader that I had, he's a first sergeant now. And his name's Pletcher. And he was one of the guys that went to Iraq, and you know, kind of a little bit shorter statured guy. And I'm not saying that to be you know, negative or anything. You know, just a little bit smaller of a guy, but like knew his stuff, very smart. All that kind of stuff.
I had a sergeant major that was called Sergeant Major Stump, and that guy was 5'1".
Still run his ass off for PT, I bet.
The fucking guy was jacked. He was jacked.
I believe it, man.
Ugh.
But anyway, so we're out at Blanding, and Pletcher was like, "Hey, Mac, do me a favor." He just throws me his truck keys. He's like, "Go over to such place, pick this up, blah blah blah," and it had me just pretty much run around. And it's like, at that point, I was kind of, you know, I wasn't exactly one of the younger guys. I was in probably like my late 20s and whatnot. But at the same time, I wasn't exactly like one of the new guys. If there's such a thing as, you know, being like the senior member of the Spec 4 Mafia.
Maybe.
I was the senior specialist mafioso, so yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it was just cool though, because it was like, even though I wasn't exactly an NCO, he's like, "Man, you've been here long enough, you know what's going on." And I just kind of got accepted by some of these guys that had been there for a while. So it was like, all right, cool, you know, it was fantastic. So that's kind of like, that was really special. You know, it wasn't anything crazy, but it was like, you know, I got treated like one of the, you know, big boy rules kind of stuff. So
got that big boy pants.
Got the big boy britches on your pal. So
Jesus.
Did you have anything else you want to add before we start closing this out there, bud?
Nah.
I know we've got that last bullet point on there, but I think we've kind of covered a lot of stuff. So
yeah, I think I think we're good. Well, as it goes, you know, we like that you watch the show. We like that you love the show.
We like that you like the show.
So if you want to catch us, I had to do that. Sorry. If you want to catch us on any other platforms, obviously you can catch us on Spotify, on Anchor.
Apple Podcast.
You can also catch us on Google Podcasts. I believe there was Ranker. Let me see.
Needless to say, if you put in Battle Bros Podcast, we've been going on long enough. You'll see my ugly mug, and this handsome fellow over here next to me on
Overcast,
picture.
Breaker, Castbox, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Stitcher. Also, if you want to throw $1 into that proverbial tip jar for us, you could do that also over on the Anchor app, as well as throwing a like on every episode that you find, including the Spotify app as well. You can like and share those, and share them with your friends. We recommend it and guarantee you will like what you hear.
Legitimate question. Are we?
Yes.
Do we have anything up on Patreon yet, or are we still working on that?
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Okay.
I go on there. I go on there from time to time to check it out, and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I wasn't sure how that worked, but and also just because I actually remember this now, we have an Instagram page, so check us out on the Insta, as the kids say. So
indeed, you can check us out over on the Instagram at @BattleBros_podcast. You can also catch us on the Facebook at facebook.com/BattleBros.podcast.
So now that Alamo's brought up all the social media stuff, we're gonna close it out like we normally close it out. So the whole purpose of this podcast is to build a community, and part of building that community, we kind of had to come up with some kind of mantra, because let's face it, there's days that get you down, days that get you just flustered, and where you don't feel like you can carry on. So
damn Skippy.
In the process of coming up with this show, we created the Battle Bros Code, and it's kind of like this mantra that we've adopted, where if things get tough, just some little reminders of, hey, you got this, keep fucking going.
Yeah.
Right? So we're gonna go over that like we do every time. So the Battle Bros Code is this: be tenacious. Okay, no matter what happens in life, be tenacious. Do it to the fullest of your ability. Whether you're being a parent, whether you're being a soldier, whether you're being a teacher, whether you're being somebody that works at a library, whether you're being a postal clerk, do the job to the best of your ability and do it to the utmost at all times. Don't
Roger that.
Fucking half-ass nothing. All right, just do it the best of your ability. R, refuse to surrender. There are gonna be times when things get you down on your luck, things happen that get you sideways and off course, and you're sitting there in the woods looking at your azimuth going, I don't know where the fuck I am, looking at your compass like, you might as well call me LT because I'm lost. No matter what happens, exactly. No matter what happens, just remember, okay, you need to stay on course, hit the OBJ, do the job, see it through to the end. Don't let things get you confused from all that, okay?
Lawyer.
Oh, obliterate your obstacles. They're kind of going along with R, okay? There's going to be things that happen that are going to stand in your way, okay? Breach that friggin' obstacle, go through it, go over it, go under it, go around it, get past it, continue the mission. Charlie Mike, cool? S, this is probably the most important one. Seek out a friend in time of need, okay? There's a lot of times that we go through battles internally that sometimes people don't know about, okay? And that's fine. The most important thing to remember is that we as humans are not supposed to be individuals. We thrive as part of a group, okay? We are social animals. We are pack animals, okay? When that happens, when you get to the point of needing help, there is a network out there of people that will help you. Whether it's something as simple as calling your old battle buddies up from the military and just being like, hey, you got time to talk, man? I could surely just have somebody, a familiar face, somebody I trust to talk to. You got your friends. Like, I know I can call this guy right here anytime I need to, and he's going to pick up the phone and just be like, hey, man, what's going on? You need something? Even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, he might not pick up 2 o'clock in the morning, but he's going to be like, dude, you called earlier? I was asleep. Sorry, what's up?
I might, because I'm a light sleeper.
That's true. So there's always, seek out that friend in time of need, whether it's family member, friend, battle buddy, military service member. You never want to go through stuff alone. You don't have to go through stuff alone, okay? And the biggest thing I can impress upon other folks is that don't ever try to solve a temporary problem with a permanent solution. That never works, okay? You deserve to be here, and if obviously we're talking about suicide, okay? One of the biggest pandemics right now, besides COVID and opioid addiction, one of the biggest pandemics is the fact that 22 veterans a day commit suicide. The reason for this podcast is our buddy John, who committed suicide earlier this year. John today, I think, would have been 48. I think, was it? I think it said 48. So today would have been John's birthday. I think
he would have been that old, man. He never looked it.
No, he didn't. He kind of looked like he was,
He was still he looked like he was like in his early late 30s, like early 40s.
Yeah, but you could tell he had some miles on him and stuff. But at the same time, like John was just, John was one of the funniest dudes that I've ever worked with. Like we had so much fun that it should have been illegal that we had that kind of fun. Like just his laugh and everything.
I still can't get out of my head that the story he told me when he fucking stabbed his leg.
No, I can't get out of my head the story that you and your wife told when he was at the wedding. He's like,
Oh
he's
yeah, they
joking,
choked.
and he's not doing. And all the nurses are sitting there going, "That's not the right hand and arm signal."
Yeah,
Doing all that
my
kind of stuff. I
family is
mean,
just
but that's
eccentric.
dude. But that's John though. It's fucking great. I love it. So, but anyway, back on track here. Today
Chick.
would have been John's birthday, and John had a story that needed to be told, and
Yeah,
unfortunately, he's not here anymore, and that's a tragedy because he deserved to be here like everybody else, like you do, like we do. Your story
yeah,
deserves to be told. You should tell it to other people so that they can enjoy and benefit from knowing you. Okay, so in the event that you need help, reach out to a friend. If you don't have a friend handy, you can always reach out to another resource. What we always use is we always mention the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. The phone number is 1-800 273 8255. Again, that's 1-800 273 8255. Let's help. Part of this community that we want to build is to break down the stigma of reaching out for a friend and to say,
yeah,
hey, I need help, and have to go through it alone and resort to some other means of therapy like drugs or alcohol or any of that kind of bullshit. Okay.
yeah,
Reach out to somebody, get help, and stick around. We
yeah.
want you to stick around. All right. So
Hell, and hell, my thing is this too, man. Like the things that I want to do with this, with our platform right now, because we do have a platform is that is growing, um, even if it doesn't feel like it. And my thing is I'm trying to eventually, full disclosure, I'm trying to get into the point where we start doing events where we could go and do, PT days or runs,
great
whatever,
caveat. I
all good
completely
stuff, man.
slacked on that, dude. Great caveat.
Because and for all of our viewers, listeners out there, if you guys really want to get down on that stuff, if you guys really want to support us, one of the best things you can do is just kind of reach out to us when we're out, when it comes to that stuff, because we want to know what you guys think. We want to know if you guys are willing to do that kind of stuff along with us, because we want to do that with you, because it helps bring other people along. And we know that when you guys have friends from your units, there's always going to be somebody that's close by, somebody that lives near you. Bring them with you so that they can tell other people. And the more people we bring in, the more people we reach. And that's
Out
really all I got to
without
say about that.
when we get outreach, we can include more people, and inclusion is a wonderful thing.
Damn, Skippy.
So on that note, we're gonna wrap this longer episode up. We've been on here chatting for a while, but it kind of feels good to have a good long chat about something. So
Chitty chat.
we will be on next week, same time, 9 o'clock Friday nights Eastern Standard Time. But first, but wait, there's more.
There's more.
So Alamo and I are going to be doing an event on Sunday. It is the Veterans Run, which takes place over on the Courtney Campbell Causeway. It is to help raise funds for the Stano Foundation. And if you go on to if you look up the Veterans Run, you can go to like runsignup.com and it'll bring up their stuff. But the Stano Foundation pretty much is they send a bunch of care packages every quarter over to troops around the world. They're still deployed and whatnot. It's an event I did 2 years ago with another friend of mine. Alamo and I have been talking about it, and we just said, man, let's do this. It's going to be awesome. So what we're going to try to do is while we're out there on the course this Sunday, we are going to try to stream live. It'll probably be a little not quite so serious. We're probably going to be hamming it up a little bit, just being a couple of asshats wearing a rucksack, doing a 10K, which is six miles and change. So if you're not doing anything Sunday, tune in, watch us go out and take a little walk in the world. And the weather should be gorgeous. It's going to be out. I think it's going to be like between 55 and 70 degrees outside.
I think so. Yeah.
It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be
God.
It's going to be awesome. It's that time of year where the weather gets just beautiful.
Damn, Skippy.
So by all means, check us out. We're going to be going live a few times while we're out there on Sunday. We'd love to, get some feedback from you guys. And we're just going to go out there and just ham it up and do something for a worthy cause and try to bring some outreach and some awareness to our platform so we can help make it get better and grow. So we'd love to we'd love to see you guys out there. And we've got shit. So we actually look like professional asshats. We're not just a bunch of amateur asshats. We're professional looking asshats. So it's going to be good. But anyway, again, this is we appreciate you guys watching. This has been Mac and Alamo with the Battle Bros podcast. This was episode 18 talking about acceptance. And we thank you for joining us. And we hope to see you, if not Sunday, next week at our regular time. Until then, we want you all to stay safe out there. Try to love one each other as best you can. Know that we love you and we want you to stay around, and we will hopefully talk to you guys soon. So on that note, y'all take it easy. Farewell and good night, and we'll see you when we see you.
Battle Bros out.